red sky at night. Take me home. Barnsley road.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. You are watching the Red Sky Podcast or listening to the Red Sky Podcast if you have got us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I don't know what Spotify had either, Adie. Alongside me is Callum Cooper. Callum.
Hi mate, how are you doing? You all right? It's good to get us both back together. It's been a few weeks, hasn't it now, since we've been on together? I know.
I've missed you a lot. I mean, we don't work together anymore, so I don't see you at work. Yeah, I mean, you're more beautiful than I remember.
Oh, cheers, pal. Cheers, pal. I forgot what your face looked like. It's been that long.
Anyway, let's stop the loving. We're not the only good, handsome footballers on this podcast today. We've also got Adie Moses. How are you, Adie?
Hiya, boys. You're all right? Very well, thank you.
Good man. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you giving your time up.
No problem. You're very welcome, and thanks for asking me on.
No problem. No problem. We'll crack on now. We've done the introductions. Let's get into the meat and drink of it. Callum, you attended. Not a great performance, not a great result. Was it? What was it? What happened?
It's a good question, and it's a tough question, and I'm sure it's a question that's probably been rattling through Valerie and Ismail's brain for the past sort of 3 or 4 days. You're right. A really poor performance by Barnsley standards. They've been absolutely brilliant this season. We've obviously achieved the playoffs. It's been terrific. So you don't want to be too harsh on them. You don't want to give them criticise too much. But I think just a tired performance, really. You sort of go into that game, you wanting to keep the ball rolling, you wanting to get momentum going into the playoffs, playing a team that's essentially on the beach in Preston. They've got nothing to play for. And it just didn't really work out that way. I think, the pressure was off for both sides. So maybe you could say mentally for Barnsley, after having such a mentally strenuous season, a game after game after game, they've just sort of took the foot off the gas and relaxed a little bit now that there's not much to play for, which might actually work in Barnsley's favour come time for the playoffs. But yeah, just a disappointing performance, really. And I think one that probably indicates that I think the players might need resting for the final game of the season, just to clear their heads a little bit, put some fresh legs in and just change it up a little bit. But no, it obviously needs a little improvement, doesn't it, going into the playoffs?
Of course. Adie, your thoughts on that performance then? Was it a case of, the Lord's Mayor Parade? Was it a case of mentality? We've done it, we've climbed the mountain, and we can't be as motivated, therefore? Is that a thing as a professional footballer? Can you lose? Can you keep telling yourself that you're up for it and you are motivated, but your body really, there's not that adrenaline, it kind of knows that you've delivered when you needed to. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. I go a lot, Callum's right, what he was saying there. I just think that the level of intensity that Barnsley have had and the run that they've been on, and nobody can have whatever happens from now on in this season, nobody can have a go at Barnsley and what they've achieved. It's been absolutely fantastic. But you just cannot possibly be at it every week, as, you'd single out really. There's only been, of late, last 15 games, Coventry, Sheffield Wednesday, and that game there, where you'd probably say that they weren't at it. And I think in a couple of them games, the other teams had kind of done the research a little bit and worked out how to play against Barnsley, which I've been surprised at. And especially a lot of the big teams with decent squads, decent managers, just haven't been able to cope with Barnsley this season. And I just think with Preston, they have been actually playing quite well lately. And I think we've got to a point where everybody just now, because we're used to it, they think Barnsley will just turn up and win. And it's a tough league championship, as we know, highlighting how fantastically well Barnsley have done this year. But you just can't possibly be at it every week. You're going to have off days. I don't think it's a case that we just run the course and that's it and it's fizzled out and we just think about playoffs, because I don't think the manager's that type of guy to do that. I think he'll keep him at it. It's a bit of a conundrum for him now as to think, do I rest a couple? I don't want to risk any injuries. Do we try and plot who's going to finish where in final positions and things like that? But I just think that Preston, and as well, Preston still had a bit to play on it, because I don't know if, when you've got like temporary manager, that guy, has he got his eye on job thinking, I might want to get this a little bit, and he might have a different, he might have his players all relaxed, they might all like him, they might all want to play for him, compared to I know Alex Neil previously. I know what Alex is like as a manager because I played with Alex. He's proper quite intense, similar to what, you know, Barnsley players have probably been used to, you know, in your face and that. I think he's calmed down a little bit, Alex, from a couple of his jobs that he got first down here. But, you know, whether them players now are looking at it and it's a fresh approach for them and they're a bit more chilled and a bit more relaxed, but you just can't possibly be at it every week. But saying that, they still had the chances, Barnsley, and, you know, they could quite easily have scored a couple. I still thought that they looked a bit dangerous at times. And, you know, we had a couple DK in second half, what he could have easily fallen right from inbox, and he'd have smashed them in, would have been back in game. So not 2 miles away, but I just think it's impossible for him to be at that level every game. And I don't think it's a bad thing to get a couple of defeats at this stage of season, knowing we've made playoffs. Just kind of marks your card a little bit, and, you know, don't think that you're up there when maybe you want to be at. So I don't look at it as a bad thing. Gives you a bit of a reality check.
Yeah, fair enough. Callum, positives then, performance-wise? Anybody really stand out for in that game?
Well, you know, we've spoke about the performance, and there clearly weren't too many standouts. Quite impressed actually with Jasper Moon when he came on the pitch. You know, and these sort of games as well, we're not really used to it, are we? At this stage in the season, everything's sort of settled a few games before. We're normally fighting right until the last kick, so it's a good opportunity to get some of the young lads in, like Jasper, get him some minutes in, because he's probably going to be one that features heavily in a Barnsley shirt in the years to come. And he almost scored as well, doesn't he? Probably had one of Barnsley's best efforts of the game. So, you know, fairly impressed with him. But yeah, the likes of Carlton Morris, you know, he put the effort in again. You know, I'm a really, really big fan of his. And I think he's possibly been one of Barnsley's most important player, if not the most important player. I know sort of DK has stolen the headlines with all the goals and everything, but the impact that Carlton Morris has and the sort of difference in playing style that he brings to the team, I'm a really, really big fan of his. But, you know, as a whole, obviously the standard of performance wasn't to the level that Ismail expects. But, you know, as Adie just said, it might just be perfect at this time, just to get that little bit of reality check, just get that sort of kick up the backside going into the playoffs, and think that, you know, if we really are going to do this, we've got to up the levels of performance once again. And going into the next game, there's been a lot of questions asked over we think whether we should rest players, play your best team. I think playing them clearly hasn't worked, really, has it? You know, and keeping them the same 11 game after game. So I wouldn't mind seeing a couple of changes against Norwich, to be honest, just to freshen the legs up, freshen the minds up. And yeah, as I said, you know, hopefully we can get the ball rolling from this Saturday.
Yeah, yes, when you mentioned him, again, an absolute job that Martin Devaney's done for under 23s, a conveyor belt of players. You know, a young, handsome defender. They don't come around too often, do they? Homegrown as well, just like yourself. Adie, is there any need to worry? Can you turn that tap on and off? You've lost against Preston. We may rest a few against Norwich. That's yet to be seen. Do you then worry that you can't pick momentum back up when the playoffs begin?
No, I don't think so in that, because I think, well, a couple of reasons. One, like I've just said, what the manager's like. Yeah. I don't think he'll allow for that, and I think he's instilled that into the team already. I could see that from early on with some of the younger players, what he'd done, and, you know, there won't be anyone moping about or out like that. So, from his point of view, I don't think that he would allow that, and I think it'd be in the players' minds already that they know they'd have to be at it. They'll all be wanting to play in those games. If they're successful in the first couple, they'll have their eye on Wembley, so they want to be in the team. So they'll all have that. You have that as a professional player anyway, because you want to be in there. So there's that angle. But also, I think the fact that the magnitude of those games and what's at stake, as a professional, even if they lost to Norwich at the weekend, Norwich is celebrating, it's their last game. I know they've won the league now. Even in that, I think you could afford to rest a couple. But if you took out a couple of your key players and then said, right, give them a bit of a rest, you know, that wouldn't affect them really in terms of going back in and thinking, oh, I wish I had played that, because it keeps you ticking over. I just think they'll go into that game, and because of the anticipation, the level of what's at stake for that match, I'll have all them players at it. And it's just like a fresh start. The season's finished, as in the league programme, and you would just be bang up. If you can't get up for a game like that, I just think you'll be bang at it from a minute. And if it means resting like a Morris because he's had a niggle, you don't want to risk an injury and things like that, so be it. And I just think it's a chance to freshen up, and get everybody right at it for first game. And I don't think taking a few players out for Norwich, if he wants to do that, I don't know how he'll do it. You know, he might want to keep them in and keep that togetherness. But if he did rest one or two, there's no. I know from personal experience that if I went into that, you'd be probably think I'm grateful of a bit of a rest, but I'm right up for this match tonight, and he'll have them right wound up for it. So I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah. Callum, he's mentioned niggles. Carlton Morris obviously having that niggle earlier on in the season. If that's something that may reoccur, then that could be taken out of his hands in terms of resting him. That's a very logical choice. In terms of key players, you rest your key players. But what are your key players for Barnsley? Because the Barnsley team's been magnificent. By the way, while we're on that team of the season is the biggest load of dog meat I've ever seen in my entire life. They got the manager wrong and they got the centre half wrong to start with. But we'll come to that later on. But what are the key players, Callum? Who do you foresee him resting? Is it a case of what Adie said? Do you maybe play a team for 45 minutes and then play a different, change 7 for another 45? What do you foresee happening?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You change Barnsley's key players, you're changing 11 players out of that team, aren't you? Exactly, yeah. So there's so many. I suppose you could sort of look at the spine of the team. Maybe change the goalkeeper, get Jack Walton in, maybe play Apo Halme where Mikael Helik's been. Bringing another central midfield player. I'm not sure of the situation with Herbie Kane. I know he's been injured. Not sure what he's like on his recovery period. It might be nice to just slot him back in there, give Alex Mowat a rest, maybe rest DK and definitely Carlton Morris as well. As Adie said, he's had that little bit of a niggle. It looked really worrying actually at the end of that Rotherham game. I thought he pulled up with a hamstring, and we've been relatively lucky with injuries, haven't we? We've not had an injury to a key player. I'm touching wood as I say that, because that'd be horrendous.
Yeah.
But yeah, just rest the big players that can really, really make an impact on Barnsley's playoffs at any time, because it'd be absolutely devastating to pick up suspensions or an injury right now. I think there was a moment in the game actually against Preston where Mikael Helik picked up a yellow card in the first half, and I was surprised, to be honest, that Ismail kept him on. I know he'd only be, if he'd have got a second yellow, he'd have only been suspended for the Norwich game, but it's just that little risk, isn't it, that you don't want to take. But no, I think resting the players wouldn't have any sort of damaging impact going into the playoffs whatsoever. They clearly need the rest, some of them. Even Jordan Williams could come in one of the wing-back positions to give those wing-backs a little bit of a rest, because they've been pretty much every game back-to-back they've been playing. So yeah, rest sort of the spine of the team, I'd say, and those really, really key influential players that can make a massive impact for the Reds.
Yeah. Looking at that Norwich game then, Adie, we've talked about not turning the tap on and off again, and you feel that you can make changes and then change it back again for the playoffs, and you don't think that'll. What are we expecting to see from Norwich? Are they gonna enjoy themselves, Adie? Because they are champions. They may have had a busy week this week.
Well, if I go off personal experience from when we...
I know all about your personal experiences. We've talked about it numerous times.
If you go down that route, for when we did it, obviously we... well, and we aren't going to divulge in too much of what did happen that week, but
you can tell us all. We've got time.
There weren't much training going on. Well, actually, I weren't at the club because I got my first under-21 call up with England, so I got away with that. But from what I gathered when I turned back up, I don't think the lads had been training that much anyway. And obviously, we went to Oxford and got battered. I think possibly, I'm not saying we weren't professional, but it's a different game these days, as in terms of, what you can do and for instance, they're not going to be going out drinking this week unless they're doing something behind closed doors or whatever. So there's that kind of thing. But yeah, I like I say, I just think they will. I just think they'll come and relax and enjoy it. I don't, there's no point in you take somebody like a Buendia or somebody like that going in for a stupid 50-50 tackle. There's no riding on it. They've done what they've needed to do. Just come up here and enjoy the experience. You can, how many times do you get to do that when you can actually play with pressure off? And they've got some lovely footballers. So yeah, I just think that they'll come on. But like I say, professional outfit. They were a Premier League side year before. They're going back up again. They've got some lovely players in there, and I just like to think, they'll come up and it'll be a decent footballing match, two good footballing teams where there's not a lot riding on it, and they know that we've secured playoffs, they've secured championship. Hopefully it'll be an enjoyable day for both sides and a decent football match.
Yeah, two very contrasting styles as well, which will be interesting to see. Callum, I doubt there's going to be many eyes of the world on us, so I think all the eyes are probably going to be on Barnsley, the other team that's like near Barnsley. We'll not mention them on this podcast, and Derby County. So I don't think many people are going to be other than like the neutrals are not going to be watching Barnsley Norwich, I would imagine. So you're expecting to see a good game, like Adie says, two relaxed teams that have succeeded. Norwich certainly succeeded what they set out to do. We've gone above and beyond, haven't we? So hopefully an enjoyable game. We're injury free, suspension free, and we'll get to those playoffs, Callum.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That'd be the perfect scenario, really, wouldn't it? To get a couple of other players in, players that sort of need to prove a point, really, for next season and their position in the squad, because I think we've got a big squad of players that are all capable of starting. So I'm sure they'll come in and play really well. The same for Norwich. There's no reason for them to play the big players and potentially risk injury. They can enjoy it as well. I can imagine they'll want to end the season on a high and get as many points as they want and lift the trophy on a really positive note. But the pressure's really off, isn't it? Both sides can enjoy it. And in relation to Barnsley winning the game, there's no real gain to finishing higher in the league, in my opinion. We play whoever we play in the playoffs. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter who we come up against, whether it's home leg first, away leg first. For me, if you're going to get promoted, you've basically got to beat everyone anyway, haven't you? So there's no real added incentive to try and win the game to finish higher in the league. It is what it is, and I'm sure that's what Ismail and the rest of the squad think, that no matter who we play, we're going in with the right mindset of we can definitely win. And in relation to the style of play, and I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, that the likes of Norwich, you think back to the FA Cup game at Oakwell where we beat them and stopped them really well, and the rest of the teams in the playoffs, those sides that play like that get the ball down on the floor and play out from the back, etc. Barnsley have done really well against that sort of side and stopped them from playing, and struggled really against the lower sides in the league. Sometimes with that style of play. So, I think it might suit us.
Yeah, that links on to my next point then, Adie. We're going to wrap up that Norwich preview. And just a few words from yourself. Why have Barnsley done so well this season? Where has that come from? They've obviously had this plan in place, 2.5, 3 years. They've stuck to it in terms of recruitment. And that's all well and good, employing 3 great managers out of 4, bringing in probably 90% of the signings have been hits. That's brilliant, but it happened on the pitch. And how has that happened, Adie? How has that been turned around, in your opinion?
Well, it's obviously all down. All credit goes to, like I say, the manager. Since he's come in, I think he's from day one kind of ruled firm but fair. Looking on an outsider looking in, I think he'd be the type of manager that's all the players know. Look, there's no sulking here. There's no messing about. If you're not at it, you're out. You can tell he's intense, he's in there. And when you've got a manager like that, you've got to be at it. You can't let your standards slip. So every player's got to be thinking, right, I'm at it. Anybody who's sulking and moaning, see you later, you're out the door. And I think he's got, and the recruitment that you're talking about, he's got a togetherness. They've obviously signed well in January with the strikers, but the squad that they've seen very similar to what I've said this before as to what we had. They've got a togetherness. A work ethic where you'd want to run through a brick wall for your mate. I can see a lot of similarities in between that, what we had and what the current side have got. Seem all the, there's no bad eggs in there. We didn't have any bad eggs. They're all good lads. They're all young lads wanting to work hard, wanting to run that extra mile for your mate. And that goes a long way. It only takes a couple of bad eggs in the camp, if you like, for that all to kind of unravel a little bit. And I can sense from that there's a real togetherness in it. And getting back to that, like I said, what we had, that really homely club. The staff are all in it together. The fans, I know the fans haven't been there, but social media is totally different these days. There's a togetherness, and I just think that the manager and the players just deserve all the credit for the goal. The run that they've been on has been absolutely amazing. I've watched most of the games on the iFollow. I've watched them as season ticket holders with my lads. And it's been something that we've really looked forward to have a winning team, and you think they're going to win every week. It's been a real highlight in lockdown for us. It's been really something to look forward to, because it's been a Wednesday, Saturday, and games all the time. You know, it's been one of the few highlights for a lot of fans where, you know, it's been something to look forward to. But I think that's the key. Manager getting that intensity, getting players up, good recruitment, and a good set of lads that have worked hard together.
Yeah, those I follow commentators are not bad either, Adie, are they? They're all right. They're all right. I get a feeling Daniel Stendhal in his final few days, his final few weeks, potentially overcomplicated it at this level. Do you feel that Valérien Ismaël has simplified our Barnsley play, Adie? It doesn't feel like there's much complication. There's no tick-attacker, is there?
No, I think obviously I haven't chose to stay in the game. I've gone down a different route. I did my coaching badges, worked for me going out that. So I'm looking at as a retired ex-footballer, looking at the team, and I've heard like Wayne speak when he's been on with Callum and Matt, and I know Johnny's done a couple of games. And football ain't difficult. I think you've got to now. It's all the modern way is all about philosophies and, you know, playing the right way. Can we play out front back? I remember Barnsley. You know, you're on about under them previous managers. I can remember Mads Anderson stood right on the side at 6-yard box, getting the ball off the keeper, looking a bit nervous that he didn't. Well, I'm going back season before here, getting ball, and then he'd try and play out if he can, and you just and the fans were there, and they were a bit nervous, and it affected him and all that. That's not what Matt Anderson's good at, as what he's proved this year. He's wanted a manager to come in like Ismaël and say, this is your job. Edit, win it, give it to Moat who can play, or get it into the striker, nice ball there, clear, squeeze up the pitch, get it. And that's what he's done this year. It's been a revelation because he's not being asked to do something that he's not capable of. Now you watch, like I said, I watched a lot of the games. I was watching the Luton game of the week, and Luton are being told to play out front back. And I was just watching that game thinking, 9 times out of 10, we're going to win ball back here. And we're going to be straight in on their goal because no disrespect to Luton's defenders, but they ain't got the players to do it. And they were overplaying, and then it was just a matter of time before they get ball away. And you're giving ball away to a Morris and a DK who's going to go, thanks very much, drive at your defence. That's the last thing you want. Yeah. I just can't get my head around how a lot of these sides nowadays have looked at it and gone, oh, we've got to play this way. It's all about the philosophy and that. Barnsley, I think it's a bit unfair just to say that they're roofing it and that, because they're not, because they've got some lovely footballers in Moat, Coley Woodrow, Britton. I think he's been fantastic this year. But they've got the players that can do it in the right area. But what's the point in going pass, you know, to give the ball away and that? Get it, and that's where I'd be. If I were that, I'd be old school, saying, get it up there, get it into them that can play. Managers used to say to me, do what you're good at, sweeping up, get it back, bang, give it into someone, give it to Neil Redfern, give it to Bisancic, whoever it is, them that can play. That's all. That is simple. But you've got all these managers, and it ain't rocket science, and you've got sides coming down, and they wonder why they aren't having a shot on our goal, because they can't get out their own, because they keep playing. And honestly, I've looked at it, it's been quite bewildering at times. I'm looking at some of these managers and squads, good clubs, good stature. Stoke City, massive club. I could have still played against them centre forwards. I think. Do you know what I mean? It didn't look like that.
That's if Parky was still up front for him.
Play against Johnny, no problem. That's, yeah. Played golf in last year.
He's playing with a cricket bat these days, isn't he?
Yeah, I know he's doing well. He's getting a few knocks and stuff, isn't he? But yeah, I looked at that, and like I say, I watched the Stoke game. If you're the Stoke chairman, I think, come on, his helicopter. I think that was the, you know, Coates had parked it in car park. He must be looking at that squad he's got. And I don't think they had a shot. I knew Nick Powell, who was a young lad at Crewe, coming through. Fletcher winning odd header, and that was comfortable for Barnsley. And they didn't get out their own half and have a shot. And I'm looking at that and thinking they have got a massive squad, a good budget, and they didn't have a shot against Barnsley. And I'm thinking,
Adie, thank you very much. You're going to have to come back on another time and discuss with us. Callum, well done. You've survived another podcast with me. Man, nice
many more to come, I'm sure.
Many more to come. Adie, please come back. We appreciate you coming on. We appreciate your insight. I'm sure Barnsley fans will. Thank you very much. All right.
Anytime, fellas. Nice seeing you.
See you later. Ta-ra, buddy.
You too, mate.
Nice day.
See you later.
Thank you for watching, everybody.